Okay, so the first question is, at what generation does the white fur population have a second peak? The white fur generation have the second peak at a generation according to the results. What is the ratio of white fur to brown fur for the generation you listen in number 1? The ratio between the rabbits fur in the first generation showed that each 5 white fur rabbits, there was one brown rabbit. At what generation does the brown fur population peak the highest? It was at the sixth generation according to the graph and table show. What is the ratio of white fur to brown fur for the generation you listen in number 3? At generation 3, it shows a ratio of 9 brown fur rabbits per 45 white rabbits, which is the same as 1 brown fur rabbits per 5 white fur rabbits as shown in the generation 1. What environmental factors were present, not present, that allowed for the brown fur population to peak? The brown fur rabbit peak was present during the sunny and dark ground environment, which allowed them to camouflage with the ground from the wolves and this way survive easier, generating the population peak. At what generation were the wolves introduced? The wolves were introduced at the third generation. What was the climate like when the wolves were first introduced? The climate was sunny with the dark ground.
Explain why the line for white fur starts to decline considering your responses for number 6 and number 7 above. Taking into account the wolves were introduced during a generation where the climate was still sunny, the white rabbits had a less possibility to hide or camouflage from the predators according to their fur color, which makes their line to decline considering these factors. At what generation did the climate change to winter snow? The climate changed to snow at the sixth generation. Explain why the line for brown fur starts to spike considering your responses for number 7 and number 9 above. As the climate was initially sunny, the brown fur rabbits were more likely to survive, as we mentioned before. This climate was according to their fur and the ground. However, when the climate changed to snow, their full color didn't allow them to hide from the wolves, making their population to decrease again and causing the spike for their line in the graph. So by showing at the beginning an increase and at this sixth generation a decrease, the line tends to spike. In what ways do the environmental factors and weather affect population numbers in both white fur and brown fur bunnies? The results showed that the environmental factors, in this case the wolves, were more likely to hunt in the sunny climate the white-furred rabbits as they weren't able to pass unnoticed, until the climate changed to snow, where their fur was able to mix with the snow and make the brown-fur rabbits more noticeable to wolves. At what generation do we see brown-fur bunnies become extinct? In parentheses, population equals to 0. The brown fur bunny's population went extinct at the ninth generation. What caused the population of brown fur to reach 0? The climate and environmental factors that didn't benefit the color of their fur, making their population to decrease. At the time, snow climate was introduced, making them more visible for wolves and lowering their life expectation to finally go extinct. How can natural selection explain why white fur population spiked in the snowy winter? How did they survive the wolves? Natural selection excludes the non-necessary traits from one species in order to survive. So this way the following generations will inherit the suitable traits. In this case, according to the climate, which was the snowy winter, generated an increase for the white fur rabbits as we mentioned earlier. It helps them to camouflage themselves, and taking into account the climate was sunny before, their population was lower, which generates their spike, showing the change they suffered on the population when the climate changed as well, making them more likely to hide from the wolves at winter. How can natural selection explain why brown fur populations declined in the snowy winter? Why was it easier for them to be hunted by the wolves? Their brown fur was a good trait on the sunny climate. But once the snowy one came in, they weren't able to camouflage anymore, making them more visible for wolves in this environment and making it easier for wolves to hunt them.